I lived today. I didn't want to. I did it anyway. Welcome to another episode of I Live Today. Today we're going to investigate red flags versus green flags. So previously I was on about good and bad. So eventually, after trying to be ridiculously good and oversharing, overgiving, over everythinging, I get to a point where I've had enough. And I turn into what other people would call bad. Because suddenly I don't give anymore. I don't wait for you to call. I don't make an effort anymore. I withdraw. I stop offering to assist. I stop, say hello to Abigail. I stop trying to be everything to you. And I start watching. I start watching your behavior. I start watching what you do, how you do it, why you do it, what you say, who you speak about, what you speak about. And I then refer that into my own frame of reference. And this is important because the red flag, green flag scenario is personal. It has to be, because we are all born of different circumstance. We all grow up in different environments, different types of dynamics, different parents, different social groups, different structures, even different cultures would have different red flags and different green flags. So what is a red flag and what is a green flag? Well, it's going to depend on your perception. And you'll say, well, hang on a minute, isn't kindness globally? Well, yes, it is. But there are degrees of kindness. There are degrees of nastiness. And depending on your individual circumstance and what you've learnt is normal, and what your nervous system has decided is not a threat, will depend on whether something is a bright red flag flapping at you or seemingly green. And the only way I can think to illustrate this is to say, if you live at a train station, you get used to the trains coming in and leaving. You get used to the train hooting, the clickety-clack on the tracks, the sound of people embarking and disembarking, the flurry of activity that happens with the arrival and departure of every single train. It becomes a background noise, and your brain and nervous system filter it out. So you think, well, how on earth would one's body do that? Well, it does. So to illustrate, if you were to visit someone who stayed at a train station, you would hear every single sound. Everyone. The person living there wouldn't hear it. You might ask them, how on earth do you live with the sound of the constant trains? And they think, what are you talking about? Because our bodies block out certain stimuli. Otherwise, we would be overstimulated constantly. Otherwise, we would be in a constant state of fight or flight and anxiety. So our bodies filter out stimuli, whether it be sight, sound, light. We filter it out automatically. It's a physiological thing. Our nervous system doesn't register a constant, continual, I don't know how to describe it, sound or light as an irritant anymore. So you stop hearing the trains. You literally stop hearing them. If you took that person out to the countryside where there are no more trains at all, they would not be able to relax, because the body is expecting the sound of a train. Your subconscious mind expects the rhythm of the train station. So they become restless because the body becomes restless. After a week or two, that restlessness will fade because the body becomes used to the new normal. Because it becomes normal, you normalize a situation. So you're probably thinking, well, what on earth has this got to do with red flags and green flags? I mean, a red flag can't be normal. Well, yes, it can. If you think of the different places and cultures that people thrive in, exist in, live in, survive in, you soon start to realize that what's normal for you isn't normal for someone else. So surely a green flag is kindness. Well, yes. But what is the degree of kindness? And why does it matter? I was raised in what I would call a dysfunctional family. We weren't physically abused. Yes, we were punished. Yes, we got hidings. We weren't physically abused. We were neglected more than anything. It became normal. Until one day I realized neglect doesn't work for me. It hurts me. And I reframed my consciousness to not accept neglectful behavior from people. I won't accept it. I literally will not accept it. So when I start feeling as if somebody is neglecting me, I start registering what I have created as a red flag. Because neglect used to be a green flag. I reframed it for myself. And let's face it, red and green flags are hindsight, which is 2020. You go into situations, you live through a situation, a relationship, a situationship, a dynamic, a work environment, until eventually you decide you no longer want to tolerate it. Was the red flag there all along? Yes. Was the red flag bearable? Yes. Did you delude yourself into thinking it was a green flag? Well, maybe. Maybe you did. Maybe you thought it will get better I will get used to it. The people are just different to what I'm used to. I don't understand my environment correctly. I'm not sure what I'm doing in this particular job. I don't understand the company culture yet. So you see how a red flag can seem like a green flag, and how we actually make excuses, because we do make excuses. Our bodies know. Our bodies know. Our bodies start with a stress response. And eventually, when you've been in a toxic situation for long enough, your body decides it's had enough. And the enough might show up as random bursts of rage. It might show up as never-ending illnesses. Somebody in the building catches a cold and suddenly you have bronchitis or flu or something. Your body is trying to tell you something. But your brain has normalized it because it's normal. This is the way my boss speaks to me. This is the way my father speaks to me. This is the way my husband, partner, other half, significant other speaks to me. This is just how they are. This is what the relationship is like. Oh no, that's perfectly normal. He always, or she always, does ABC. Is it a red flag or a green flag? Well, it depends on who you are and how you're looking at it. It depends on what you have normalized within your own psychological framework, within your own heart, mind, and body. So you think of people who end up in relationships where there is physical violence. And most people will turn around and say, oh no, you've got to leave. Normally, by the time people start saying that, the person has been in the situation for a very long time. A very, very long time. In the beginning, they were shocked. Not enough to leave, but enough to note that what had happened wasn't okay. And then the partner is remorseful. They give you gifts. They bring you flowers. They apologize. They make excuses for why they did what they did. Whether it be, I was intoxicated, or I was really angry because work has been so bad and I took it out on you, I shouldn't have, etc. There are thousands and thousands of excuses. To an outside observer who isn't in the situation, who doesn't have an emotional connection to the situation, that is a red flag. That is a giant red flag. And their immediate instinct is run for the hills. To the person in the situation, they're making an excuse. They're saying, he or she had a hard day. I do love them. I can't picture my life without them in it. It was only once. This is the only time it has ever happened. We've been together for almost a year, and nothing like this has ever happened. It's not normal behavior. And then slowly, slowly, that red flag continues. It becomes more frequent. It becomes more normal. And while there's a voice in the back of your head saying, this isn't right, I'm not happy, I don't feel good about this, there is still part of you that thinks, yeah, but they love me, they care for me, they're not doing this because they don't like me. It's not normal for them, because we remember the history. And then one day, our body, physiological and psychological reaction all click and say, I can't do this anymore. I can't cope with this anymore. I cannot cope anymore. I've got to get out. And that is when friends start hearing about the abuse. This could have been going on for years on end. The person could have been living through the most ridiculous situations, ridiculous to you and I, for many years before they eventually decide that they can't anymore. And people around are looking and saying, but the red flags have been there all along. The first time he did it, you should have left. Or she did it. You should have left. But your red flag is a tad green because of what you've normalized due to how you were raised, your own family, your own culture. Things that I think are dreadful, other people think are perfectly normal. I personally don't like loud speaking. I don't. But many, many, many cultures and people believe it is perfectly normal to speak at the top of their voices so that, from my perspective, people on a different continent can hear them. From their perspective, people know they aren't speaking about anyone in the vicinity. So what is a red flag and what is a green flag? And why is it so difficult to distinguish between the red and green? And why do they vary and change so often? Why does that red flag not flap at you and say, hey, this is a red flag, do something? And make no mistake, it does in a lot of situations. You know, if you're driving down the road and there is a giant fire in front of you, your entire body will go into a flight or fight instinct. You will see the fire, you will think, this is not safe, I need to get away. But if you've lived in a situation where fires are normal, you do not react in the same way. So what is a red flag and what is a green flag? And when does a green flag turn red? Is the green flag turning red the point where eventually you decide, this is abuse, I'm not tolerating it anymore? Where you decide, this doesn't make me feel good anymore? Where you start questioning your own behavior. Why do I keep giving to this? Why do I keep sharing? Why do I keep trusting? Why do I keep waiting? Why do I keep loving somebody who is incapable of loving me, of considering me, of reciprocating the energy. So I still ponder red flag versus green flag. And a big part of me has to say, we all know deep down what a red flag is and what a green flag is. The problem is, do we listen to our bodies? Because our bodies tell us. Are we able to read the signal that our bodies are sending out? I know I dismiss mine. I know when my throat closes. I know that I'm too scared to speak. And if I'm too scared to speak, the person I'm speaking to is a giant red flag. But inside I have a little voice that says, just give them a chance. Maybe that's not really the situation. Maybe they're having an off day, and I make an excuse. Red flag versus green flag. Anyway, I lived today. I didn't want to. I think I'll try again tomorrow.